Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Henny.
We're talking today about English students dropping out of university. We're looking at the students from the 2012-13 cohort. This is the first year where students paid £9,000 fees. Would we expect this to have an effect on dropout rates?
Well, we might. So we're looking at dropout rates so that we've got these undergraduate students, they get to the end of their first year and then do they progress to the second year, and some of them don't. We know that some of them drop out for a number of reasons. And we might wonder, does the fact that they're now paying fees in the range of £9,000, will that impact on how likely they are to drop out? And the truth is, we don't really know, because we know there's lots of reasons why they might drop out. The common things are financial difficulties, maybe academic difficulties, they're struggling with their course, there could be personal difficulties at home. Maybe it's just a bad match between their choice of subject and institution and they just don't fit. Lots of reasons why they might drop out, and the problem is potentially all of those could be related to paying high fees. So if we consider first maybe personal academic difficulties, we know that a big factor in determining how well you might do at university or the likelihood of you dropping out is whether or not you live at home. And we might think, well, now these students are paying higher fees, they might want to stay at the parental home, study closer to home. If the higher fees led to more students staying at home and not moving out, then maybe we would expect that to indirectly cause a higher rate of dropout. On the other hand, we might look at financial reasons and think, well, they're paying £9,000. They're potentially going to have more financial difficulty. If they get that, will they drop out? In that case, we'd see an increase in non-continuation rates. The good news about both of those things, which we would think might adversely affect dropout rates, the good news is that actually the early indications are that neither of those two factors might be at play. On the one hand, actually, when we look at the UCAS data, we don't really see more students staying in the parental home. The higher fees haven't really stopped them from moving away. And then if we look at the financial motivation, well, yes, they're going to leave university with greater indebtedness, but if we think about kind of cash constraints and how much of their money they've got to live on at university, there's no reason why the fees should have actually affected that, because they're borrowing it all. And actually maintenance loans went up, as they typically do year on year in line with inflation. So in terms of cash constraints, it shouldn't have affected it. But you never know. On the positive side, maybe it would actually cut dropout rates, because if we think about that choice between which institution you go to, which subject you go to, if you know that you're spending £9,000 every single year on your course, maybe you'll just look that little bit harder, make a slightly more considered decision about going away to university, and maybe we'll get better matches there between the student and the course, and maybe that would cut dropout rates. So it's all up in the air. We don't know. That's why we're interested in having a look at the data.
So what does the data show us?
Well, for 2012-13, what it shows is a slight increase across all of these undergraduate first-year students, slight increase in dropout rates. Over a longer period, actually, we've had a bit of a downward trend, and this is only a small increase. It's the year before, 2011-12, was the lowest dropout rate that we have going back. But it's slightly higher than that, but still actually the second lowest of all of the rates that we have for the past 10 years. So it's a small increase, it's not really a significant increase, and actually in the grand scheme of things, it's quite small.
Are we seeing the same picture across all student groups?
Well, interestingly, actually, we don't. And if we cut the data into young students and mature students, where young students are those who are aged 18, 19 and 20, and mature students are those 21 years and over, then actually we see quite a different picture. So if we look at the chart there, the bottom line are young students, and we can see that the trend for young students is broadly in line with the overall trend, but those last 2 years, where the last year is capturing the year with the increase in tuition fees, the rate is completely flat. There's no change at all across those 2 years. But then if we look at the rate for mature students, overall that's much higher, because mature students are far more likely to drop out. But over the period we get a big decrease in the rate of dropouts. It comes from 15% to start with down to 10%. But then that last year with the higher fees, actually we see that there's a kick up in the rate there for 2012-13. of course, the caveat there is that it's a single data point. We can't draw any firm conclusions about that. We don't know if that trend's going to continue. But it's possible that the fees may have caused a different effect with mature students as it has to young students.